what does Upanishad means? Because that's the one thing which I discussed in the first session. What we are studying together as a family here is Vedanta. Vedanta is end portion of Vedas, or I call it Vedanta essence of Vedas. And Vedanta at the end is Upanishads, and that's what we are studying. Being a student of Sanskrit, I thought it's important to stress all the components of the word Upanishad and go in greater detail to understand why this understanding is critical as we proceed with the discussion for today. Sanskrit is such a beautiful language that the word like sir is pronounced in sir, sh, sh. So there are various pronunciations to describe different way it is written and the way it is meant. So Upanishad has upa, ni are prefixes. Sat is a root. And there is also a suffix attached which came up and went. Let me clarify. The word verb is sad. Due to Sandhi rules, sad became shad. Shad. Because of the suffix attached, called in Sanskrit, it's called akhyata. It's also called quip. It allows you to become verb into a noun. Give me an example, Dr. Sane. For example, if you add a word, a suffix, say cook becomes one who cooks is cooker, but over a period of time, the suffix is dropped. And so when somebody says cook, it doesn't remain verb, but becomes a noun as the one who cooks is the cook. Okay. The same thing happens with shad here. Shad has a akhyat suffix and subsequently is dropped, and shad becomes a noun which has come out of a root noun, verb noun. So verbal noun is Upanishad. Now there are two prefixes I described to you. Upa is the first prefix. That means one which is sense of nearness. Upanishad is the knowledge of something that is near. How much near? Now, near is a relative concept. For example, I can see your beautiful faces. Most of you are awake, and some of them are sleeping in India, sleepier at least in India. So near is a relative concept. So this particular laptop is nearer to me than you folks are. My body is nearer than the laptop. My mind is closer than my body to me. And then myself, the Atman, is even closer than my mind. So one basically closest to me is the Atman. So what we're talking about is a knowledge of closest to me, that is Atman, that is Upa, that is the meaning of Upa related to the discussion we're doing. Ni, what does Ni mean? Another prefix. Ni is Nishchitam. Nishchitam means ascertained knowledge. Knowledge that is free from any doubts, knowledge that is free from any vagueness, knowledge that is free from any error. So nishchitam jnanam, a certain knowledge, no doubt about it, no vagueness about it, no error about it. That is nishchitam jnanam. So these are the two prefixes we talked about. This particular knowledge is something very special and something that allows us to become what we want to become something that is for the all time, perpetually. It's a knowledge that makes us happy because I don't feel happy. I want something different. So this knowledge will let you become different and stay that way. For example, even when Narada went to his guru, Sanat Kumar, despite having earned umpteen numbers of degrees, goes to Sanat Kumar, is, I still don't find happiness. I still don't feel myself complete. Despite doing multiple flights over the space, he still was not happy. So his teacher then, who happened to be his brother, Sanat Kumar, he says, Yo vai bhumaus sukham, yo vai bhumat sukham, na alpe sukham asti. When you get this kind of knowledge, the happiness is not limited. The one which is limited, alpe sukhe, does not give you happiness. And that is from Chandogya Upanishad 7:23:1. So we talked about so far upa and ni, nishchitam jnanam, and the closest knowledge, that of Atman. The third element in Upanishad, as we talked about a verbal noun, shad, and has three meanings coming from the original root, is called gamanam, visaranam, avasadanam. Gamanam is going, knowledge that takes you to a particular place. Visaranam, something that loosens up, cleans out, like cleaning up the dead branches from the tree, makes it look clean and sharp. And avasadanam, total destruction, so destroys all that is bothering us. So this knowledge we're talking about of the Atman that we're going to get is going to cut all the dead wood, loosen it up, and destroy all the worries, the anxieties, the pain, and the grief that we have. That is the word of shut. And where does it go? Gamanam. It takes me where I want to be. That is, I want to be limitless, because limitless is my nature. I am free of bondages. And the only thing that we have to remember is what this knowledge gives us is the knowledge that comes about when Prasanna has his cataract surgery. If Prasanna was to say to the doctor, when his bandages were around his eyes, I just cannot see. And the doctor says, no, you can see. You take those bandages off. I've done the job I want to do, I need to do, and you will be able to see. But I'm trying to say this knowledge allows us to take our bandages that we have created ourselves, that bandage that we put around the eye, and that's why we can't see. So when you listen to somebody who's advising you, doctor and guru, doesn't matter, Prasanna, anybody that you respect is fine. You listen to that particular person who has treated you and take those bandages off, you'll be able to see who you really are. So that is because most of the problem is related to the bondages that we put ourselves. So basically, this Upanishad loosens up all our blemishes, destroys the bondage created by our ignorance, and this knowledge allows you to understand who we really are. And that is the one which allows us to protect ourselves, feel secure, do not feel limited anymore, not feeling any wanting anymore. You know that you don't lack anything. And whatever which inadequacies that we perceive by the bondage that you put in is no longer felt by the individual. Now, this bondage I'm talking about, just like those bandages, is not real. It is primarily psychological. That notion can be removed by acquiring that knowledge, true understanding of my nature. What here Vedanta is teaching us, that I am limitless, I'm beautiful, I'm just fine as I am. I am harmony, I'm love, I'm limitless, I'm eternal. That means I'm exist, I'm eternal, I'm Sat. I'm sentient, I'm awareness, I'm consciousness, I'm Chit. I'm not limited, but I'm limitless happiness. Ananda, Naina, not Sukha Dukkha. Ananda, which is no other word to that. So you are Sat Chit Ananda. I am Brahman. So what we are doing here through this understanding, studying together as a family, is praptasya praptam. That means what I'm saying is we already have it, but come to understand that we indeed have it. You see, typically when we write letters in the Indian times, I don't know if you remember any of it, Prasanna will certainly know. With typical word they would write in Marathi, later was Yogakshema Vahayam, Yogakshem. Yoga means aprapyasya prapti. Whatever you don't have, bring it together, yoga. And kshema is praptasya rakshanam, protecting what you have. But here, what I'm talking about, this jnana, is praptasya praptam. What you already have it, by getting rid of the ignorance, gaining the knowledge, you find what you already have it. Now, I shared with you a story some time back. I'll repeat it again. I know all of you were there when I was discussing the story with, I think, Anandi and Bala at that time. Is a lioness who's about to deliver is shot by crazy trophy hunter individuals. So lioness died, but the cub was born, was brought up by the sheep in that region, and they treated that lion cub as a part of their family. As animals understand, they love each other. I remember the story about a tiger coming every night to meet cow, and the farmer finally heard the dogs barking many times, finally put the video outside and saw a picture, a couple of videos are there about it, where he would come every night and go next to that cow, lay down next to her. They would exchange love with each other, and then he'll walk back early morning. So he saw that on video, because the animals are able to feel the love for one another. But coming back to story here, as you growing up among the sheep, one day a real lion comes trying to find his own prey, and all the sheep with the tail in between start running away. And this lion cub is barely catching up with those sheep, because he had not learned their way of running. When this lion sees this lion cub and brings it along and takes him to the water reservoir nearby, he said, "You see me and you're running, right? I understand. Why don't you see my image in the water?" He saw a lion. Okay, now you see your own image in the water. And now do you see? You're no different than I am. So this is how this bigger lion was the guru of the younger lion, to remind him as to who he was. So from that moment onwards, the behavior of that lion cub became like a true lion. Of course, the rest of the story I do not know. I'm sure he treated the sheep with the same kind of love that they had treated him. But the story is Here, what we are learning is we are no longer limited, but indeed are the lion. As Vivekananda was said, rise up, O man. You are much more than what you think you are. The bondages that you're putting yourself is only in your mind. Rise up, awake, and achieve. So that's what he would say. So then only we can say, become sthita pradnya. Dukheshu anudviknamanaha, sukheshu vigataspra, vitaraga bhayakrodha, sitadhihi muni uchyate. Prajahati yada kaman, sarvan parthamanogatan, atmanyevatmana tushta, sita pradnasya dosha. That's typical verse that Prasanna likes. I understand it fully, but once you understand it, you have understood, you have lived it, you don't need to worry about it. So far we've finished overviewing the Upanishad, and we have reviewed the entire thing that we have done so far. And then, if you remember last time, we concluded talking about what is an ideal speech, and that was this ideal speech must be truthful, arising out of the Muladhara Chakra, because that's where you're grounded in values, acquire emotions of the mind and intellectual analysis of your intellect through the strength coming from Manipur Chakra, Anahat Chakra, controlled by Ajna and Sahasrara Chakra, and deliver it through the Vishuddhi, Vaikhari, in a very forceful way. Those words that come out are delivered forcefully, which inspire others, create a positive energy in the mind of the listeners to help the people who are listening, locally or universally. And that's the ideal speech, and that's what we studied last time. That brings us back to today's discussion. Tvam gunatrayatitaha. Now, Vedas postulate that this creative power of Brahman, that is Maya Shakti, created this universe. This creative power is constituted by three gunas: sattva, rajas, and tamas. This universe, which constitutes both the sentient and insentient, can be reduced to three fundamental principles, which are matter, energy, and consciousness. Sri Krishna says, Sattvam rajastama iti gunaha prakritir sambhavaha nibadnanti mahabaho dehi dehi namavoyo. Every entity in this universe is a manifestation of one, two, or all three principles in different permutations and combinations. Hence, there must be three constituents in the cause of the universe to account for these threefold manifestations, which is indeed the case. That's basically, I'm trying to review in a short the entire 14th chapter of Gita here. There are three gunas which are manifest: sattva, rajas, and tamas. This entire universe is a combination of these three gunas in different proportions. While the substratum of the existence, as we discussed earlier, is none other than Brahman. As a matter of fact, in the 18th chapter, Shri Krishna says, Na tadisti pruthivyam va divi deveshu va punaha Sattvam prakutirjari muttam yedebhisyat tribhirgunaihi. There is not a single thing on the earth or in the heavens or in the gods that is devoid of these gunas of the nature. When Brahman, which is the existence, awareness, absolute, is manifest in sattva, consciousness unfolds. When manifest in rajas, energy and activity issues forth. When manifest in tamas, matter originates. Since we know that this created universe is merely a projection of Brahman and not transformation of Brahman, Brahman itself is not affected by these gunas, remains as absolute reality, whereas these three gunas belong to the empirical reality that we get confused with. Similarly, there are three fundamental major moods of the mind. Mind is alert, getting knowledge of all the things of the world when sattva predominates, as we are doing now. When the rajas predominates, the mind becomes restless and vagrant. And finally, when tamas predominates and mind becomes lazy and languid, remains disinterested in learning or exerting. However, since universe is merely a projection of Brahman, is totally unchanged or unaffected by appearing or disappearing, and Ganapati is studying now here, being other name of Brahman itself, it is considered to be beyond effects of these three gunas, which are merely the projections of Maya Shakti. So what we are studying at this time is the final sixth mantra from this Ganapati Upanishad, talking about Nirguna's appearance of Ganapati. We talked about Gunatrayatita. And the next two phrases are Tvam Avasthatrayatita and Tvam Dehatrayatita. That means you transcend three states of mind, being awake, dream state, and deep sleep state. And to your Dehatrayatita, you transcend all three bodies. Now, I'm going to combine both of these entities together as we study today. The physical body has its existence in the mind. The physical body exists in the notion of my body or me when we think of it. This is wrong or ignorant thought, repeated endlessly, is the subtle body imprisoning the infinite. You see, we got body belongs to the person who is nothing but the thread of habits and memories. He is a bundle of fears and cravings, like dislikes and likes. His creature of mind. Person is not a real subject, but he masquerades as the subject. This person is never separate from the whole Brahman. So we are Sthul Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Karana Sharira. The gross, subtle, and the causal bodies. And they go through different phases during the 24-hour period that we go through. Now, when we are awake, we interact with the objects in this projected world and interact with our thinking that we are the intellect, our Brahman. We consider this is our body, Sthul Sharira. So we see ourselves, we see the objects, and interaction takes place. When we go to sleep, again, Brahman is still there, but in the dream state, with our subconscious mind, we create our various objects and entities and seem to experience various things which do affect our autonomic system, so that if you are able to see the dream, it will still show the changes in your pulse, blood pressure, body temperature, and so on and so forth, as we discussed before. But then when you wake up, you realize that dream that you thought was real was indeed simply a projection of your subconscious mind as you wake up. When you sleep, again, that being the causal Sharira at that time, which is nothing but Brahman, is still there, except it has been covered by individual's ignorance. The individual has not still learned that that individual is nothing but Brahman. So that covering up the ignorance is creating a situation where the individual does not have any understanding what is happening, is fast asleep, but that the sense of happiness, contentment, ananda, is present in the deep sleep. That ananda, Naina, is able to seep through the wheel of ignorance and rejuvenate, refresh, and recharge your mind. So when you get up and tell Ram that, boy, did I have a good sleep last night. It was cold, a nice blanket, I slept nice, I feel recharged. Let me make some idli dosa for you. I don't think so, but I'm just saying that. But I'm saying that you recharge and refreshed. But at that time, what was happening is that your mind was in contact with ultimate happiness, because which was nothing in Brahman. So these are three different phases. Avasthatrayatita. Deep sleep, where you are in connection with the Ananda, your true nature, except you know it not. In the subtle stage, the Ananda Sharira is still there. Your subconscious mind creates various objects and entities, and you experience it. And when you are awake, you are interacting with the entities which you think they are real and create experiences. But only when you get the knowledge, what we are talking about this morning, you realize that that also is purely imaginary. Just like those things in your dream were imaginary. That is what we're talking about. Once you realize that this body is also a projection, like the Nagari seen in the mirror, as Vivek, I think Dakshinamurti Stotra talks about, you realize that in reality, you're none different than Brahman itself. So as we are studying about three gunas and three avasthas, knowledge, the right knowledge to see the Atman, is independent of all these three gunas we're talking about, though their appearance to be characteristics of oneself. So what Shankaracharya is trying to impress on our mind, that even these effects of gunas should not be affecting our true understanding of our true nature. What I'm trying to say is, what Shankaracharya taught us was identify with this knowledge is that what we consider this as a snake, the calamities, the difficulties, the challenges, is simply the snake projected by our ignorant mind. But whereas in reality is simply a rope which has no influence at all, and that we are complete in every possible way. So Shri Krishna says in the 14th chapter, trying to towards the end of Gunatraya Vibhava, it is rather seeing the effects due to apparent snake, which is completely independent of the real rope, knowing its existence as what it is. Prakasham cha pravrittim cha mohimeva cha pandava nadveshti sampravrittinta na nivruttani kankshati. Pandava, brightness, activity, and even delusion that have come to occur, that individual does not despise, nor does he long for that whereas gone away. The detachment in involvement of Atma or gunas is like an involvement of space in the part. Remember, the parts are filled with space. It is you thinking a connection with it, but there's no interaction with the part. So that is the Brahman with part outside. Once you come to realize it, then that enlightened individual sees samadukha sukha swasta, samaloštashma kanchana, tulya priya priyodhiras, tulya nindapmastostuti. Manapamanayo stulyas, tulyo mitra pakshayo, sarvarambha parityagi, gunati sa uchyate. 24th and 25th verse of 14th chapter. He is firm and well grounded in the self through self-knowledge that we've been discussing, and takes equally to pleasure and pain, and a clump of clay or gold, love or hatred, praise or censure, or enemy and friend, and so on. He also becomes sarvarambha parityabi. That means he is not taking any credit to arambha. As a matter of fact, when Shankaracharya described about sarvarambha parityagi, many of his disciples turned on to him and said, Swamiji, you talk about sarva arambha parityagi, but then you are writing all these stotras and mantras. How come you're starting? He said, no, I'm still sarva arambha parityagi because this is part of my prarabdha. So that's how he described it as far as I'm concerned. And that was very, very powerfully explained. So again, what I want to conclude this morning, this bondage is a notion. Stay like the stay like that little lion cub amongst the sheep, though he thought he was the sheep itself, and lion as we are, become the lion itself. Tat Twamasi. I'm going to stop at this particular stage because it has been a very heavy subject to discuss, but this has to be done because this is concluding the Nirguna aspect of Lord Ganapati.
Well, this presentation brings up what for me has been a fundamental issue for years.
Right
And
now.
see, you're a good teacher. You do that. So this description of the world as sort of in negative terms, the body is imaginary and it all exists in the mind and it's not really real. And it's kind of the implication that the words carry the association that it's rather negative. And what really matters is Brahman. But the physical world is also said to be a manifestation of Brahman, something that Brahman brought into existence as an aspect of himself. This is the way I have understood it.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes no sense to me that you would describe this world that only exists because Brahman brought it into existence in such negative terms. In Kashmir Shaivism, the principle is the same. The fundamental aphorism is nothing exists that is not Shiva.
Mm-hmm.
But in Kashmir Shaivism, the interpretation is profoundly different.
Mm-hmm.
Because given that everything that exists, our bodies and other people included, is nothing but Shiva, they are to be regarded in the highest terms. Everything is sacred rather than something to be pulled away from. And I personally much prefer that approach.
I get it. As a matter of fact, it never stays that you should not be enjoying what the things are there in this world because you know you're Anandamaya, you're Advitiya, Satchit Ananda. So what the projected world is given, nobody says that don't enjoy it. But at the same time, please do not forget who you really are. So when you are suffering in your life, when you're going through painful process, don't bring yourself down. Don't pull yourself down that I'm nobody. I have shortcomings. I'm painful. I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. I don't know how to enjoy. That's what he's trying to say. You become balanced, sita pradnya, in thinking as to what is happening in this world. You enjoy the same rasgullas, same Shrikanda, Basundi, idli dosa. I like all that food. Nothing wrong with it. But again, if I don't get it on a given day, I'm starving on that day for whatever reason. I was kind of different places. I'm not going to be grief stricken, completely pull my hair out. I'm not losing, I'm getting gray. I'm not worrying about it because I know who I am. So you are happy, you're content. Atmanya Atmanatu, knowing fully who we are dreaming. There's nothing wrong in enjoying the dreams. But at the same time, I'm not worried about that tiger chasing me in Serengeti Plains because I know I'm at peace. This is just a dream. I don't know if I'm making clear or not. As long as you are nothing but Shiva, when we come to a discussion towards the other art of the Ganapati, but Tvam Yogina Bhayanti Nit Yoginaha Dhyayanti Nityam. But 3-4 shlokas down, they say, all these yogis Dhyayanti Nityam. Yogi is able to do but dhyana. You see, Shraddha, Bhakti, Dhyana, Yoga, away. You have the faith, you have to have devotion. At the same time, you have meditation. And combination of that, you will understand indeed who you are. So that's what we'll understand, we'll discuss about Shiva at that particular time. What I'm trying to say is we have to gain the knowledge first because we are discussing Ganapati Upanishad as description of Nirguna, first 6 verses. Then will come Saguna. Then the prayers. In between, I'll discuss about Gayatri and Gayatri Mantra, or Ganesh Gayatri Mantra. And towards the end, we'll tell the Falashruti. That's how the classic description of 14 mantras is. So I'm concluding today, that's what is heavy, 6th and the final mantra of Nirguna Rupa of Ganesha. Okay? All Upanishads are basically telling you the exact same, Tat Tvamasi. Only difference is the teacher is different, the way he uses examples are different. But what is important for that teacher, I don't say him or her, because both of them are there. They are able to connect with the people who are listening and get the point across. To have that particular concern is appropriate. As a matter of fact, Aranim Krutva, we'll discuss it during the further discussion, is what you do is during the dhyana, you have to do is churning. In the olden time, arani were the 2 wooden sticks which were used to start the fire in the old way, because no matchstick was there, no lighter was there. Okay. So what they did was they had a little thin cotton and put wooden stuff which had pointed around and put it and churned it, created a heat that lit up the cotton, and that light was used for yajna, all the fire sacrifices were done. So that is what you need to. As a matter of fact, Yajnavalkya tells Maitri, Nididhyasanam. Nididhyasanam Kurya. Towards the end, you have, what is Nididhyasan? Is dhyana. Shravana, manana, Nididhyasan. Listening to the teacher with devotion, intensity, concentration. Manana is reflection of what that has been taught. And then during the time of deep meditation, Nididhyasana, you're churning it and getting out the buttermilk from the butter on the top. And that's the butter you're trying to reach. That is people who, you know what, how in India are talking about Ravi, we call it Naina. In taking out the butter is, this is the fast fashion in which we do. And what I'm trying to say is that is what we'll do, but that does not preclude us from enjoying our dreams as we are enjoying at the present time. But
Yeah,
don't you
but I see, I think the language matters because if you say that this real world is nothing but Maya, that's rather negative. If you say that everything that exists is Shiva, that is as glorious as you can get. And I think it matters which language you use.
I get it. As a matter of fact, when we'll hopefully the next time I'll discuss Kaivalya Upanishad. Kaivalya means one. Kaivalya is there are 3 entities: Brahman, individual, and the universe that is projected. Okay? And basically, the knowledge is to realize that ultimately There's only one entity, and that is Brahman. Okay? But whether the individual that you're discussing together as a friends, or the universe in which we live and interact with one another as universe, these are two separate points. But the knowledge that I'm discussing today is to recognize that this is basically Brahman projecting out in this particular fashion. So because you are limited as far as the life expectancy is concerned. You are limited, universe is limited as far as life expectancy universe is concerned. It goes through the creation, sustenance, resolution, and recycling. So every entity goes through creation, maintenance, and destruction. Same thing happens to us. Till such time, you don't need to come back because you connected yourself with ultimate consciousness, you know who you are. So only time you come back, you're appointed as a faculty in the, I call Cosmic School of Spiritual Enlightenment. That's my term for that, where you come back to teach and communicate with fellow students to inspire them, encourage them to understand that there's only one. So you're on the right track. The different words are used at different times. So I'm saying in not in a negative way. I'm telling you, you are nothing but Brahman. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah,
Go
to
ahead.
me,
Hey, Anand,
it seems that it depends upon how you interpret the word mithya. As far as I can see, science today is saying the same thing. Science is also saying that this body is not the ultimate reality. It's not saying it is not real, but it's not the ultimate reality. And it is desperately, for a long time, trying to figure out what that ultimate reality really is. So at one time, when I was a little kid, they told me that it all consisted of atoms, right? And then it became, protons and neutrons and electrons. Interestingly, same three things: sattva, rajas, and tamas, in a way. But science at that time said that it is the number of electrons, number of protons, etc., that matter, whereas Upanishad says it is the proportion of sattva, rajas, and tamas that matters. Different, similar ideas, but little different. And now, even those entities, protons, electrons, and so forth, have been further subdivided. And as far as I know, nobody has really found Brahman yet, from a scientific standpoint, what the ultimate reality actually is. So it's very similar ideas that that we have even in science. So if we choose to use the words reality and ultimate reality, Brahman being the ultimate reality, not negating what the universe is, maybe you might call it temporary reality or something like that, because it does have a finite lifespan, almost everything does. So rather than saying it's totally, I don't think mithya can be interpreted as false. So to me, it's a question of how the word mithya, I mean, Brahman Satyam, Jagat Mithya, how do you interpret this word mithya? Maybe temporary reality is a better translation.
I hear you, Anand. At the same time, everyone has to find his own answer. And that's what the part of Nididhyasana. I don't know if you attended that session or not, is many times the difficulties come because when somebody is trying to understand what the individual is trying to teach, individual comes with preconceived notions. And that is creates a negation in the part on the mind of the person who's listening. This is not right or wrong. As long as you understand what it is, that's okay. What I'm saying is that's the reason what Nididhyasana is. You have to see, get a pratipaksha bhavana. You have to look at your own position from the standpoint of the teacher who is trying to express it to you. Whether you accept it or not is entirely up to you. It doesn't make any difference to the teacher, because knowledge doesn't make any difference. Science is trying to catch up with what our forefathers taught us thousands of years ago. It doesn't matter. What is important is that you find peace and happiness. Who you know who you are. You can take it or leave it. Doesn't make difference. I'm not trying to say something is right or wrong, different or something. What I'm trying to share with you is what I have learned and what I find peace with it. And that's what I've been doing since 1979. So I understand what you're saying. Some people like to go with their own understanding, which is appropriate, very much appropriate. But ultimately, you'll find many of the scientists find out where they are not able to reach the ultimate peace in their mind because there is no end point they have achieved as yet. For example, I remember going to my teacher, Swami Dayananda. I had so many scientists and scholars coming to visit with him I used to go about 2 weeks every year. I could see at his place, trying to find, because they are not found, the peace, because they finding scholarly scientific discussions at the same time, not getting the kind of peace they're trying to find. What is important is a peace and contentment. You have to be exactly who you are, Ananda. You have to realize that you are at peace of mind, you know who you are, and you don't need anything else. You're contented. You don't need to seek anything else. You have achieved that. What road you take, 35W or 94, it doesn't make difference. As long as you are at peace, it doesn't make difference. So that's what I'm trying to say. What I'm telling you, what I learned from my teachers, and I found a peace. So even though it's not, my name is not Ananda, but I'm Shashikant, which is the same name for divinity. Okay, thank you.
Can I say something?
Sure, please.
Okay, I take Anand's point that, regarding all of this. And what I thought was important is you talked about the proportionality of all the gunas. We want to be more sattvic and not tamasic. And of course, we have a lot of rajas in us. But are we all trying to somehow take away all the evil and lazy tendencies of tamasic? We all have them. And I conclude that all of us have it in different amounts. And that is our journey throughout our life. After all this knowledge has been given to us and etc., to kind of, we have to do our own filtering and we have the means to do it with all the things that we see experientially and all the great knowledge and everything. So we're all striving to reach the point where we are more, good than bad, but then some of us are neutral, etc. So that's something I've always kind of struggled with.
I don't consider, as we are as human beings, all these three gunas are all important. They are like three siblings in the same family. Each one of us is a different proportion, and different proportion is needed to achieve it. Because if you did not have tamas guna, you would not be sleeping and getting a recharge. So that is important too. But at the same time, how you use the rajas and sattva depends upon in what direction you go. If you're lazy and languid and don't spend your time for positive activities in the community to help others and concentrate on your sattvic qualities to achieve what you are supposed to achieve in this whole cosmic school of spiritual enlightenment, then you're wasting your chance with durlabham trayameva manushyatvam, mumukshvatvam, mahapurush. You've been given a rare opportunity to be born as a human being. Return back what your true nature is whether you want to take highway or scientific 35W North, or you want to go directly where they are discussing as Brahman, it doesn't matter what method you take, but you realize who you are. You're like a homing pigeon trying to get exactly who you are. That is Brahman. Not as saying like a three siblings of the family, all of them are important at different times during the day. Okay.
Not to argue these things, but the way I understood it from Bhagavad Gita was that it ultimately asks you to transcend gunas, go beyond all of this. And gunas are, and I interpret that, once again, this is my interpretation. I interpret that in the following way, that the gunas control our vasanas, our tendencies. We are born with certain tendencies in a way. Somebody might call them genes, whatever it is, but tendencies, and those are controlled by this mixture, the proportions of gunas that we have. And transcending gunas means that working without being under the control of our likings and dislikings, our tendencies. Right? So now that going beyond gunas might become easier if one is more sattvic than tamasic, etc., and might require one to move more towards sattvic guna and so forth. I am not totally sold on all of that, but nonetheless, that could be true. But basic point is, just because I like sweets doesn't mean I end up eating all the sweets that are around. So don't want to be fully under our tendencies. Control that. That's how I interpret it.
Well, I think
From a practical standpoint.
I think if you go back to 14th chapter, we argued about the same thing a few years ago in that Hindu temple on the same subject when discussing 14th chapter. If you go back to 19th and 20th verse of 14th chapter, he says, Nanyam gunebhyah kartaram yada drashtanupashyati gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam sodhigachyati. By transcending the three gunas, giving rise to this body, that is body-mind complex, the embodied person is liberated from birth, death, old age, pain, etc., causing his samskar, unattained samadhi. Gunane tityan atitya, gunanetana titya, trin dehi deha samudbhavat, janma mrityu jara dukkhair, vimukte mruta ashnate, vimukte amrutam ashnate. So once we're discussing the nirguna aspect of Ganapati, trying to say he is Brahman. Gunantrita, that means he is able to get beyond these three gunas. Once you understand who we really are, we take away from the shackles created by Sattva Rajas Tamas, that we are bound down to this earth as we see. But once you understand your true nature, your reaction to all the things happening around you do not touch you. Like having a raincoat on top of you. Even if it rains outside, you're dry inside. Your Brahman stays very quiet, knowing fully everything else is insignificant. So read the 14th chapter, verse 19 and 20 carefully, and we'll go from there. There's no discussion arguing. Only thing that's important is individual understands what Brahman is. If you understand it, that's perfectly fine. Okay? Now, basically Naistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. That means, how do you get Nistraigunya? By knowing what gunas do. Knowing fully, even if you are in the midst of the muck, if you got a bad word, you know who you are, so you're not bothered by it. It's not that you don't have them, but you know who you are. Your true nature is absolute purity. So it's not that you think that is, I'm not worried about it, I'm not concerned about it. I'm not concerned because I'm at peace, knowing fully what my true nature is. So read that 14th chapter again. We'll talk about on the side later on during the week. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Sane, I think Triguna theory just helps me understand why I do what I do sometimes.
Yes.
So that's the good value for it, and I'm happy with that one. And regarding the mithya and satyam, uh, is mithya miti yah, which means measurable. Anything which can be measured is less important than infinite, or so I think Satyam is like permanent reality based upon which there is temporary reality which is created, which is measurable. So am I right in that or not? Miti yah.
No, it's not.
Is
Yaha,
mithya.
yaha ma, saha maya. Yaha ma. What is not? Ma is no. Yaha ma. What is not? Saha maya. What is not is called maya. But the way you translate it, what is not permanent is maya. What is transient is maya. So yaha ma, what is not, is maya. That's what sometimes classic description in Sanskrit, like definition of maya in Sanskrit. Okay.
So that is perfect, right? That's temporary. Anything that is temporary, isn't that what you're saying? Anything that is temporary is Maya.
Exactly. You can use the term or not use the, but the people do not. If you say the word only temporary, people don't understand the full deep significance of that. So if you don't say how serious am I'm talking about temporary, then you don't get the depth of what Shankaracharya was teaching us. The Maya is magic, I understand it. But at the same time, again, Sanskrit is Yahama Samaya. So you're talking about Shankaracharya, Jagan Mithya. Mithya is transient.
Yeah.
Brahma
Okay.
Satyam. That means that is ultimate, permanent, never changes. Scientists are still trying to find out what permanent is. That's fine. But Jagan Mithya, he knows, he's teaching us that this is transient.
Yeah.
So don't get bogged down in trying to find the happiness in that, because you yourself know you are already a Brahman, you are at peace. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. And our discussion for the last few weeks, for the first 6 mantras, was that we are nothing but Brahman. We are nothing but Nirguna Brahman. That is the Ganapati Roop you're talking about. Okay?
Shashi, I remember you giving an example years ago.
Uh-huh.
The reflection I see in the mirror is
Uh-huh.
mithya.
Mhm.
I standing in front of the mirror is
Uh-huh.
satya. So
Uh-huh.
that means mithya has no independent existence.
Mhm.
It depends. It's a dependent reality.
Mhm. Yep.
Right. Yes.
So Jagat is dependent reality.
Yes.
Mhm.
Brahman is the reality.
Right. Exactly right. And that's exactly what we discussed last time about how taking it further, Prasanna, is that even when we look at this Nagari, this world, it is Darpana Drishyam Ananda Nagari. It is looking at the mirror, calling Ananda Nagari, and we are happy and rejoicing in this world. But basically, what the God is, Brahman is trying to teach us through the scholars, is that also is a projection of Brahman in the mirror. So that is the Maya I'm talking about. That's the first verse from Dakshinamurti Stotra. I think we discussed it last few times we discussed Maya. So.